And guess what? I'm moving my camera around just as we go live. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining for this third Test My Pitch event. This evening, we're going to be joined by our fellow startups and fellow jury members. Just as everybody continues to arrive, I'm going to bring in our jury members who are going to give a quick introduction of themselves. And then afterwards, we will invite the juries and the startups in. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, I'm Philip Grother. I started Test My Pitch so that we could create a safe environment in which startups could come and pitch their startup that can be at different stages of maturity. They can be raising funds, or they can be at the ideation phase, and they can be small, medium, or already very large. So we had 3 events. So this is the third event. The first and second, we had the pleasure of watching different startups. For those of you who are interested, those are available on LinkedIn and YouTube. And this time, for the first time, we're also live on Facebook. So without any further ado, I will invite Joao, I will invite Julio, and I will invite Leo. Leo, who doesn't have his camera on yet, and now you do. Fantastic. Guys, thank you very, very much for joining me this evening. May I ask you, please, to all introduce yourself, and we'll start with Joao.
Yeah, Philip. First of all, thank you very much being live in LinkedIn and YouTube. I think that's the first time I get to experience that at the same time. The ones that I tried, it went wrong. No, thank you very much. Just a brief intro. I'm working currently at Demio, investing in talent, so pre-seed to seed. I previously I work in many startups. I launched 3 of my own, mainly in AI. It's something that I like it very much. Fun fact about me is I was a professional football player for almost 10 years of my life. After that big knee injury, I was forced to be in front of this computer and starting learning how to code and etc. Becoming an engineer, launched my first startup, sold those, and then it's a trajectory about becoming obsessed how to launch technology companies. This ride lets me to enter Demio. I've been here for two years now. Invested in almost now in 24 companies during my lifetime, mainly on AI. I'm focused now a little bit on climate tech, AI, and blockchain. That's my tripeta of interest. And again, thank you very much for the invitation, and glad to see the pitches here.
Of course, thank you very much. Julio, in order of appearance.
Yeah, super happy to be here. Nice to see you, Joao, again. Nice to see you, Philip. And well, I'm Italian, as someone can tell from my accent. I lived in France, London, Netherlands, and now I'm based in Madrid. I, differently to other people in the startup environment, I did a corporate career first, and then started advising startups a bit by chance, actually, because I got involved in this. I said, well, that's absolutely great, but I'm more focusing with my consulting in scale-up companies and how to improve what they're doing rather than startups that are at a different stage. But then when I started, the feedback was very good, and they said that's really what we need. And so I started adding all the verticals to what I was doing. So I'm a computer engineer. I think I'm one of the first people who ever created an algorithm for Internet of Things, a bit of stuff on robotics, but then I moved to the management and consulting side of business. And now I do a couple of things, consulting for improving processes and improving things in companies, and helping and mentoring startups as a mentor, as an advisor, as a coach. I'm a board advisor of one startup only officially, even if I advise quite more than one. I recently got into the IE Business School at the MBA, the entrepreneurial MBA at IE Business School as a mentor again. And recently started Squad of Advisors, where we are a pool of all senior executives and experts that have experience in at least 3 countries. That's speak and do business in at least 3 languages. And we came up with a new great idea to help and support small, medium companies. Like a board of advisor, but you have your task of experts rather than paying a full board of advisors that many companies and startups cannot afford it, to be very honest.
Absolutely. And well, we're already hearing the talent around the table, which is absolutely fantastic. So last but not least, and thank you very much both, Leo.
Hey, happy to be here. My name is Leo Bonkel. I'm the founder of Pure Lambda. So I spent 10 years in San Francisco, where I built my career in tech. I've also been in tech all my life. I've started writing code when I was 6 years old. I live now in Luxembourg, and what I do is that I mentor and advise startups in everything related to the engineering department, being it maybe helping with the onboarding of new hires, or maybe conducting interviews, or maybe looking at the software architecture, or how to build a prototype as efficiently as possible. So everything related to the tech side of things. And I also provide freelancing services as a data engineer, mostly for American companies. I'm also very well known in the Scala community, which is a programming language used for data pipeline in web and stuff. And you can check more on my website on purelambda.com, and I'm always available on LinkedIn. And that's it.
Fantastic, excellent. So very early on in the stage, at this stage of the game, I think it's safe to say that people can reach you all. And thanks for that prompt, Leo. Everybody can connect with you on LinkedIn. So thank you once again, all three, for being here. I'm going to take you off the feed, but we're going to have you back afterwards for the feedback from the startups. And so, speaking of the startups, the way that this works is that we're going to have, for the moment, 2 startups. Normally there should be a third. Hopefully, Oluseyi will be able to join us. If not, tonight we will have 3. This is the joys of doing things live. So for those of you who have just joined us, I'm Philip Grother. I founded Test My Pitch so that these startups could come and pitch in a safe environment. Each startup is going to have up to 10 minutes. And no matter what the stage of the startup is, we're here to provide you with feedback about the pitch. So this isn't feedback about the idea, although there can be some suggestions of things that you might want to consider. But more importantly, it's what you could do to improve the pitch itself. So as the name suggests, Test My Pitch, this is a safe environment. So this is the place in which you can try new things, you can get out of your comfort zone, and you're going to be able to get feedback on just that, just about the pitch. So we're going to do ladies first this evening, and we're going to have Angelica. Angelica, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for accepting the challenge. And we have already tested to see if you could stream and share your screen. So that's absolutely fantastic. So what stage of the startup process are you currently in?
Right, so I will present the pitch, which is not really about my whole company, but it's about the specific project, which has to be based on sustainability, on circular design, and has to be furniture, urban furniture. This is because of the competition I'm taking part in. So the whole project is still in the conceptual phase. This is where I am now. So I'm happy to hear more what you think about the presentation, the pitch, but also if anyone wants to contribute to the whole concept, I'm happy to hear your feedback.
This is good. It's good because you've actually taken a step forwards. One of the things that we always want to hear at the end of any pitch is a real call to action and getting your audience to actually engage with you and your pitch. So just a reminder to the jury members, this isn't necessarily a fundraising pitch. This is a competition in circular design. Okay, so it's very important for us to put that hat on so that we don't try and look too much at the financials and this is missing and that's missing, but we're going to put our competition hats on, and hopefully we can provide you with some good feedback. So I'm going to take myself off the feed, and when you start pitching, obviously I'm going to share your slides. When you start pitching, I will start the timer. You have up to 10 minutes, so it can be 5, 6, 7, 8, as much as you want. And then I will reappear on the feed at the 10-minute mark. When you see me, you know that you've run out of time. Okay?
Right.
So
yeah,
I will start the timer when you start pitching.
So can you see my slides well?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome.
You want to put yourself into presentation mode.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm ready to go. Right.
Good.
So I would rather start with this what I read recently. There was an article that actually 80% of the furniture in the US ends up in the landfill, and in Europe it's up to 90%, according to European Commission report. So it means that circularity in the furniture sector barely exists. So if we take a look at the urban furniture, what do cities offer us? If you take just a short walk around Luxembourg City, so what I notice is like what the city offers is like non-recyclable, very costly, very heavy, and not really welcoming furniture. So I would, if I had this task which was given to me, like how to make a new outdoor furniture, I think the question should include more the question how to produce more furniture without producing more potential waste, if we think about sustainability, which is like a widely discussed topic. So I analyzed a lot the waste production in Luxembourg, especially food waste production. And I want to come to you with the numbers, with the weight. So Luxembourg is, for example, third in Europe in egg consumption. It makes almost 1 egg per person per day in Luxembourg, which you think maybe it's not a lot, but at the end of the year, we produce in Luxembourg 999 tons of egg waste per year. It's quite impressive, right? But what do you know about eggshells? So it's just a waste, right? It's a bio-waste product, it's cost effective, and basically that's it. But if you dive into the eggshell and even more eggshell powder, so what you can get of the eggshell if you crush it like into powder, is like it's made in 98% of calcium. If you think about this, it's actually the natural product which is protecting the internal part of the egg, right? So it's not that fragile as we think. So what does it mean that it's made of calcium? It means that actually it ensures high compressive and flexural strength, which at the same time means that it can be a potential replacement for cement. And it's already used as a green cement in the sustainable construction process. So if I think about the furniture, if I don't want to use a concrete, I don't want to sit on the concrete furniture, but I want to have something with this similar properties, but not concrete. Why not using actual powder? But of course, like if I want to make a furniture from eggshell, I need to collect a lot of eggshells. So for the prototype, probably I just can ask my parents, my family, friends, or small cafes for eggshells. For the first line of products, it should be more like restaurant or egg farms. For the industrial line of products, I need industrial partner as well to mix eggshells with also clay, organic fibers, cellulose, water. But how to produce this furniture out of eggshells, even if I collect a lot? This is how it works. So I need eggshells. I need to crush them into powder. I need to mix them with clay, fiber, cellulose, water to get the mix, which I can 3D print with my 3D printers, which I already have, or with the robotic arm, then probably coat it so I can use it as a outdoor furniture as well, and the product is ready to use. And here comes the first key aspect of Actual Wonders project. If I don't need this furniture anymore, or it's broken, I can recrush it with industrial shredders, and I can mix it again and reprint the same material, which makes the whole process fully circular. And at the end, if I don't need the furniture anymore, I can just crush it again, put it into the soil, and it will even improve the soil locally. But then there comes the question, as always, who wants to buy this furniture, right? I analyzed the market like worldwide, and actually outdoor furniture segment is growing up to like 5 to 6% per year. And still having in mind that like this percentage of which ends up in the landfill, it's quite scary. Like if you think like 90% of it can be just in the landfill. So who can buy my furniture? So my analysis showed me that they can be or restaurant or cafe owners, or public green spaces management. But how to convince them to take a risk, right? That normally these kind of institutions or like small companies, they don't want to make big upfront payments. They don't want to take a risk. So here comes the second key aspect of the project. That is the lease business model. So the client will not buy it, but it will pay monthly abo for the models that he or she selected for a certain amount of time. And at the end, if they don't want it anymore, the whole responsibility of taking care of the material, it's on me, because I want to get this material back. I want to reuse this material. They don't need to think about recycling it, going to the eco center, because I just come and pick it up because I can reuse the same pieces. But what was also important for me is that placing Actual Wonders on this diagram exactly in the place where it is now. So very close in case of affordability to players like IKEA, but much higher in the recyclability scheme, which with this model happened to be real. There are still a lot of challenges. They are maybe more technical than like administrational, but there is still the process. As I mentioned, this is still a conceptual phase. But that's what I'm doing every day on daily basis. It's experimenting, because I'm a founder of ERDLab, which means I'm working mostly with 3D printing clay. So earth as a material with different mixes, organic mixes, in order to, starting from small ceramic pieces, then furniture and bricks, so bigger pieces, and at the very end to provide 3D printed clay housing in Luxembourg, which can be affordable and can provide at the same time much better material properties than concrete. I'm a small startup, so I started 2 years ago. I'm working mostly with local companies like Kempcolor, but I contributed as well to Luxembourgish Pavilion at Expo in Dubai. So I'm very curious about your feedback, and I will finish here and leave you with this image of Actual Wonders actually taking place in Luxembourg, and I hope that you enjoy this view as much as I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So well done for your project. And I'm going to invite my fellow colleagues and jury members back into the stream. So, gentlemen, I think we can all thank Angelica for this presentation. So who would like to go first with their feedback?
I think they were on, I mean, at least on my end, I didn't see the slide move.
The slide moved right at the end, and so this was not wanting to interrupt, given that this we weren't going to be seeing any financials or any numbers. I think that it was better to hear the pitch so that we can get it from a very conceptual point of view. So that is duly noted for the next time.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Because for me, I'm more like a visual person, so I would have appreciated to see diagrams of maybe the process or
Well, I tell you what,
illustration of like the size of the market. Like that would have been nice to have some visual support to it. So at first I thought that was intentional, and then I realized almost towards the end that actually there were an issue with the display of the slide, which is a bit bad.
Could you flip through, Angelica? Could you flip through and show us one piece?
By one? Okay.
Very good.
Slowly, that was the problem, and then the numbers with the actuals, the
No
properties of actual powder, then the collection scheme, production. So the slides were not visible for anyone, or
no, at the end when it flipped. And
I thought you didn't have slides actually. So very good for that last.
Well,
No,
I think you shared the window of PowerPoint and not the window of the presentation itself. So we only saw the PowerPoint
Right at
application
the end.
update when you escaped the presentation that was full screen,
that's
probably
what
somewhere
happened.
else.
okay.
So the slides themselves, they do look nice. We'll come back to that afterwards, guys. Let's focus on the content of what Angelica said.
Yeah, for my part, I really like that the product has like a full cycle, including the end of life product, and that it can fully be reused. So that's the main the main positive for me. It's pretty awesome.
Excellent. And in terms of the content of the pitch,
maybe I can jump in. Angelica, thank you very much for your pitch. Very engaging, I would say. I think when you hear eggshells and furniture, the high starts popping. Angelica, I think you can use as the first statements to engage the audience very much. If you say something, we are egg hell unders, and he's gonna tell you how the lack of circularity in furniture is affecting the planet and how we are solving using eggs, I think you'd catch the attention of the audience immediately. If I see circular economy and you are solving with eggs, I'm gonna say, what? Let me listen to the rest, right? And then I would focus more on the content of, you are saying the problem of the furniture, but you have to tell me why. Why? Because I'm not expert on circular economies and waste on furniture. So I want to hear the why there is so much waste on furniture, so I can make sense of your solution. Without the why, I cannot see, okay, Angelica is a very smart person. She is using eggs because the why of the problem is actually the production side. Because I lack the why, I could not make sense if you are very weird of using eggs as a solution or very smart. So I want to listen the why of it. So I think for me, you have a great product to catch the attention of the audience by saying, here's the problem, and this is how I'm going to solve it with eggs or egg powders, wherever, and then continue explaining me the why to make sense of the solution. I would say, don't lose yourself to trying to say eggs can be using by cement or whatever. Go directly to the point. If you are going into cement and wherever you are, defocus me on the actual presentation, which is how I'm using eggs to produce sustainable furniture. Of course, I think it makes sense when you say that you have to break it and make it as a powder again to make it again, so it's becoming circular. Put a point on that. I think it's very important. Finally, I would like to hear not only that this is gonna help me as a client, but how it's gonna have the impact on the world, right? Because you start by saying that the 90% of the furniture, I don't recall if this is in the world or in Luxembourg, but if you say this to me, then say it how it impact in the general ambient for the client itself. So talk a little bit more of the value proposition, and I need you to end stronger. You can recall to the first sentence that you just said in the beginning is, and that is how you're gonna solve the problem of lack of circularity in furniture using eggs. You can recall for the first sentence. I think that's my main feedback. Try to get the attention in the beginning and ride that wave until the beginning of the competition. As a last, good luck for your competition. You have something here.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Giulio, you're on.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was muted. So I said excellent. Well, Angelica, congratulations for the project. I think it's really nice and really useful. So that's something really, really great and needed. I didn't know some of the stats, so that really got my attention. Like, was like more than 900 tons of eggshell waste in Luxembourg alone, I think, something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
That's massive. I think overall the idea is there. The pitch more or less needs a bit of storytelling. What I miss in the story, so to back up what Joao and Leo said, is I see the pieces, but maybe because I couldn't see the slides, but seeing them quickly also at the end, I couldn't make much of a flow of what was happening. So I will back up something that Joao said, to start strong. I mean, I would even go stronger than that, something like how eggshells, how you can make a difference on the planet with eggshells in your daily life. I mean, something even more catchy. That doesn't necessarily talk about, at the first sentence, doesn't necessarily correlate eggshells and sustainability. Then it depends on your target audience. You know the target audience better than I do. I think it would be much more catchy if you say something along the lines of eggshell in your house or eggshell in your daily lives are going to make you save money and impact the planet, or something like that. Which leads me to another point. It's not very clear to me at the end, between all the things that you said, how this is going to impact the client and the planet. So I miss both points. I mean, I got an idea, I got a gist of it, right? So I understand more or less, but I think you don't want people to understand more or less. I think you want to end up your pitch with people say, got it, that's absolutely great. And that's the spirit, that's the energy you want people to have at the end of the presentation. Otherwise, it's just another sustainability nice project. Which backs up a bit what also Joao said. It's a bit of confusion. I mean, in the beginning, I couldn't understand, and that's where, again, I miss a bit of the flow. I couldn't understand. We're talking about furniture and then eggshells, and then how to mix these with clay and cement, and then how to shred them. So one question that was popping in my head, okay, what do you mean by any normal shredder? I don't have a shredder at home. Who will shred these? In the end, I think, and can you confirm, please, that nobody needs a shredder because you take care of that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's another probably point of the potential confusion. As a client, as an investor, or as a judge of a sustainability thing, I don't necessarily need to know this step, or you can mention that, but very quickly. It's like, you already say upfront, what we do is we take eggshells because it's a huge bio-waste and it's going to just get wasted. We get it, we process it in a very sustainable way. We make components out of it, and with these components, we make furniture, which is pretty, which is nice, and that people can use in their homes. What's the benefit for people? I guess they save money and are more sustainable, I guess. So you mentioned that people get save money and are more sustainable. And then when they don't want them anymore, they didn't buy it. They don't have to take care. They don't have to worry about, what do I do with this? Do I have to sell it? Do I have to dispose it? Do I have to call the municipality to come and gather and collect it? Because we get involved again, we recover it, we gather that again, and then we do something with it. We can either sell it on a secondary market or disassemble it, get again all this calcium powder, and make something new out of it that can be another piece of furniture or another object. Or even if we decide that we need to dispose it, then that's really ready to go in the field because it can be used as fertilizer or whatever that is. I mean, I'm just inventing a bit on the line with the concept that the light bulbs that popped up and understood every here and there.
Right.
And I think that's the most, that's the most important thing, since you said it's more to get attention for a sustainability competition. I assume they don't push much on the business model. I mean, we already, Philip already said we'll not look into the financials, but I don't know if they need to look a bit at the, okay, that's a nice idea, but how does it, what would you sustain your endeavor?
In the next phase, I think. So
okay.
this is still ahead.
So it's not needed here.
That'll be in the next phase indeed. Thank you very much, all three of you, for that feedback and bringing all of that feedback together and mentioning the storytelling side. You mentioned that you were going to be targeting, for example, restaurants. They're going to be not only the first producers and users of eggs, but also they are also going to need furniture themselves, right?
Right.
So you can tell the story of a large restaurateur that uses a huge amount of eggs and is contributing towards not just supplying you with the eggs, but also leasing the furniture that you have made from that byproduct from their restaurant. And if you tell us that story, and I'm talking about a restaurant, it could also be a large hotel chain, it could be, somebody somewhere that is producing so many eggs that it makes sense for you to be working with them at a large scale. Now, one thing that struck me was in your pitch, and I had written down, I know that we're not going to be talking about the financials, but I can imagine the leasing model where you're going to be leasing them the furniture. And then you went ahead and said that, and you went a step further, which I absolutely fell in love with, is that you can take the furniture, crush it down, and make something new. So that means that there's not only a seasonality to it, but you can also every quarter or every month or every year, you take everything away and you give them the newest model, the most up-to-date models, which is great because it allows them to carry on contributing and it becomes something that is very alive. Now, it can be furniture, it can be art deco, it can be loads of different things, but furniture is something that's going to be visible and useful, and that's a great story to tell. So in terms of the feedback today, because our third startup has not joined, sadly, so do you have, because we do have time, do you have questions for the jury members? Maybe for a feedback that you would like to dig a tiny bit more into?
Because this whole topic of storytelling, I'm not really, let's say, I'm not an expert in it. So what would you recommend? I know that you already said something like start strong, like you can save the planet with with one egg, but do you have maybe any other ideas like how to walk through this whole story, not to be maybe, should I be that direct or not really? And which other aspects should be highlighted and which should be maybe taken out? If you have any tips, that would be more than helpful.
Gentlemen.
To be very honest, I will need to go through that a bit again because it was so many things without a structure.
Okay.
I got a bit lost, and partially as Leo, I'm a bit visual. So if the narrative is not full, is not having a structure in terms of storytelling from the audio point of view, and I don't even have the visual clues, I'm just a bit lost. I would say in general, start strong, like how to save. You can have an impact in your own on your own home and on the planet, one eggshell at a time, or something like this. I mean, we already said a couple of options. So you will find the best one, and also one important thing is try to find a way. Try a couple of different things from starting, because you're starting from furniture and then talking about eggs. I mean, what is the real problem there? Or highlight the two problems, but in a very short way, because you started talking about furniture. I said, okay, we're talking about furniture, and I was wondering why I was looking at eggshells when we were talking about furniture. So if you want to bring both problems, say we have we have two big problems in the world at this moment. One is that 90% of this, basically every furniture that you see, 90% of furniture goes into waste and is not recycled. That's a huge, massive disaster for the ecosystem. Another thing that we know is that we got 900 in Luxembourg alone. We have more than 100 tons of eggshells that get to waste every year. And what's the solution? The solution is that we can use that eggshell to make furniture. I mean, I'm oversimplifying here, but that's already a bit of a flow. And then you end up, so raise the problem. Raise the problem? Try to understand what the solution could be, and then provide your solution. And then explain why the solution works.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Leo?
I think everything has been said already. There is not much to add at this point.
No worries. Very good, Joel.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. Careful with so many numbers. I think people in general, they don't have attention span that is very high. So if you throw them 4 or 5 numbers inside the same page, just pick 2 that you want me to remember. And this will help you pass the message a lot. I think that helps a lot.
All right, that's good tip.
Very good.
Okay.
And in fact, if you combine what Joao just said and what Julio just said, you actually have a decent intro. So very good. Thank you very much to our jury members and also to Angelica. If you've got questions, we will have time at the end. So keep those questions and we're going to come back to you afterwards. And now we're going to move on to our next startup. Good evening, Joost.
Good evening.
How are we doing?
Yeah, fine. Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're very, very welcome. So, how about you share your screen so that we can pop that up, and we'll make sure that, and mea culpa, Angelica, the slides were my fault, but I do hope that feedback was interesting for you. I can see the slides. Fantastic. Try flipping through one. And this is what happens when we go live. Fantastic. Come back to the beginning. Very good. So the same rules apply. You're going to have up to 10 minutes to pitch. So just so that we're perfectly clear, the context in which you're pitching this evening, is it fundraising or is it another?
It's a bit fundraising, but it's mostly to gain some tips and valuable insights on how other people look at it.
Very good. Absolutely fantastic. So in that case, same deal as earlier on. I'm going to take myself off the feed and I will start the timer when you start pitching. All right?
Yeah, great.
Fantastic. The floor is yours.
All right. So my name is Joost and I'm one of the founders of Get Jobs Done. And when I was studying for my bachelor in Rotterdam, I always found that everybody around me was stocking shelves or like riding a bike for a delivery hero. And I was always wondering, why do they keep doing that? Because that's just a waste of talent from all the students that are doing that. So when looking into the problems that students encounter when they are studying, it's mostly based that they don't have a lot of money. So 80% out of all outliving Dutch students are stressed about money. And like 43% of all Dutch students have problems paying their bills and even came in contact with a bailiff or a debt collector. Eventually, 59% out of all the talents don't start working in a field that they studied for. So it's just a waste of talent that we are doing right now. So when I did my master, I started working at an employment agency to see the other side of the market, to see what kind of problems companies face when they want to work with students. First and foremost, there's a lot of labor market tension inside the Netherlands. There are currently 121 vacancies open per 100 unemployed people in the Netherlands. Most of the companies find it a hassle to work with students because they need to give them an employment contract for a very short time, and they need to pay all social fees and force the students to become a freelancer if they don't want to do that. Eventually, the biggest problem that companies encountered was that most of the students lack a track record, because there's currently no way to validate the experience of students because they simply don't have any. So that's why we came with a solution. We created a tool where students can complete output-based tasks without the need to be a freelancer. In that way, we can unburden companies with their capacity problems. Students can earn money and create a relevant CV while studying. And companies can find a qualified employee for the future and already start working with them. Our product works simple. Within 4 steps, you completed the whole process. So you can place a task all based on the output. Currently, there are more than 6,000 tasks placed in marketing, sales, administration, IT, and development. After placing the tasks, they can select a young talent that applied for the job with an average response time of 3 hours. After the job is completed, the companies need to leave a review about the student, and we currently have an average review of 4.3 out of 5. Once the review is done, the student will be paid out within 2 workdays. I created this with 2 other founders, Darren and Jackie. Jackie is responsible for the development and the website. He is a self-taught developer and has built multiple systems, including one for a big pharmaceutical company. Daryl has completed his master in IBA and is currently a CEO of a temporary agency with over 150 workers. And I started Get Jobs Done after finishing my master in strategic entrepreneurship. We've been live since January 2021 and already reached 10,000 students that registered to the platform, and already 5,000 tasks are completed. How we reached it is mostly via the marketing, with a current acquisition cost of below €2. The companies where you already have 150 monthly paying customers, 6,000 tasks have been created and currently have a monthly recurring revenue of around €40,000. We reach that mostly via our sales team, in which they subscribe 8 companies per week. The market size in the Netherlands is huge. There are currently 3 million companies in the Netherlands, in which 750,000 companies already make use of a temporary agency or freelancers. So we expect that we can reach 150,000 companies that are going to use the platform, in which if they place an average task of €220, our potential task volume per month would be 42 million. And that's only in the Netherlands. So imagine what we can do internationally. Business model is straightforward with 3 subscription forms, in which the cheapest one is €30 per month and has an average fee of 20% per placed task. Our most chosen one is a premium version, in which companies pay €80 per month and have a service fee of 17.5%. And then we also have a pro tier, in which companies pay €120 per month and have an average fee of 15% per placed task. The competition in the Netherlands has some doubts to it, because we are currently the only company working with students who don't need to be a freelancer and we don't need to have a contract. We focus on short-term jobs, but it's replicant. So for example, if you want to have a student doing your social media this month, you will also want to have the same student the following month. So a competitive advantage is that we work with an assignment agreement, so that companies don't need to have a special temporary labor contract, and so that students don't need to be a freelancer. Furthermore, we solely focus on output-based work. So it's known upfront what the student will deliver, for what kind of value, and for what kind of money the student will earn. And it's easy to use. The whole process from placing the job to signing the agreement is fully automated inside the platform. We've been live since January 21 and already reached 1 million traffic volume over the platform. So that's all the traffic that has been paid out to the students and all the revenue that we gained. You see a spike in December 2020, which is caused through several events that we organized, and most students worked on those events. And Right now, we are setting up a new label, which is called Get Crew Done, in order to have a more specific focus on that kind of events. So furthermore, we want to create a better place at Get Jobs Done, and we want to focus more on tech development. So we are currently exploring the opportunity to integrate AI into our platform, in which we already have something so that companies can make an assignment based on AI, so they don't need to think about what they want to place, but they just fill in 5 questions, and based on that, the whole assignment will be built. On the other hand, we want to focus on skills-based CV because, as I said before, most of the students don't really have experience. So that if we focus on a skills-based CV, it's more convenient for companies to work with students and to see what they can do and what they can deliver. And once that's done, we want to integrate non-biased pre-selection based on AI. So we are going to take a deep dive into, okay, what is going to be done to complete this assignment and what kind of skills is needed for that. And on the other hand, we have the skills-based CVs in which we can already make a connection between the companies and the students who are looking to work. In order to achieve this, we are still looking to raise 550,000 euros because we want to focus on that AI non-biased software, our operation expenses, the international expansion in which we want to integrate that inside the platform after the summer. And in order to launch our Get Jobs Done 2.0 with all the AI fulfillments in it, we are looking to raise 100,000 euros in order to make sure that everybody knows it. So these are my contact details. If you want to know more about Get Jobs Done or want to know more about the opportunity, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. You're at 8.5 minutes, so well done for that. So I'm going to bring our jury members back in. Very good. Right, gentlemen, who would like to go first with the feedback?
Don't mind going.
Leo, fire away.
So I had a few questions. I mean, or maybe that's part of the feedback, but I'm sure people who would listen will have the same question. So I was wondering how you manage to pay the student without them being freelancer. Like, how is it, like the legal framework? I mean, I'm sure you don't have to go into detail when you talk about it, but when you say in the first slide that they need to be a freelancer, and then right after you say that you're able to do it without being that way, maybe that would be nice to dive a bit how that's feasible. I was also in my notes, like that would be nice to maybe have the success story of a student to see how it works from their point of view. Like, it's also nice to have like a little storytelling, like you're a student, you can't pay your bill, and all of a sudden with this platform, like you can upgrade to a bigger apartment, you can kick out your roommate and organize parties and drink beers all day. I was also wondering, maybe that would be nice to explain a bit more details what the task is. I know you explained it from the point of view of the business, but maybe it's hard to imagine like what type of task that would be. Maybe having some example, like concrete example. I know you said marketing, sales, IT, but what, maybe just an example, because I was wondering how long is the task? Is it 1 month? Is it 3 months? Is it like 1 week? Is it 1 hour? Like, what is the time scale of this task? In one of the slides, you said that your growth was mostly led by sales and marketing, which is great, but I don't know, maybe it's from my Silicon Valley opinion, but I feel like a product led is great to talk about, because it's like, it's so good that people want to use it. It's like word of mouth, it's great to use it, but talking about the fact that you are required to have a sales and marketing team to be able to sell it, I don't know if that's a positive, but maybe specify that it's only for the business side, and on the student side is word of mouth. Because if you have to, go with a marketing team to sell to students, it might not be a positive description. In the business model, by the end, I understood, but at the very beginning, it was not obvious who was paying the membership. And so, of course, it was the companies, but at the beginning, I was like, oh, I hope it's not the student. But a few seconds, I was like, in my mind, it was not obvious. So maybe just start there, like maybe saying like, of course, the students are not paying. because they're the one making money, they need it, etc. In the competition slide, it's a small detail, but try to put yourself at the top right of the diagram. Visually, it's more positive than being at the bottom. It doesn't change anything, it's just visually. In the number chart, you have a red line, and for me, that is colorblind. It's really not visible, so just be aware of accessibility. Also, I noticed if you look carefully at the data, I believe you made this chart maybe half of last year, and it has a date, it's like December 2022, where you're like making 60 million. So I don't know if that's the case, if you're already making 60 millions, but I think there were some adjustment in the date in the chart. And last, my note on the financial need at the very end, I feel like there were a lot of content. It was really hard to know in which direction, what to read first and what to do first. And I also always recommend when you explain how you're going to use your funding to always add a line for like risk mitigation plus 20%, you know. It shows that you're able to plan for the unexpected, and it's usually a positive thing for the investors that look at this type of slides. That's all for me.
Thank you
very much, Leo.
Great feedback.
Gents, Julio or Joao?
Equally.
One by one. Julio,
One by
you
one.
go first.
Goedemiddag, Jos. Hoe gaat het?
Goed.
I lived in Rotterdam 4 years. So, well, very interesting thing, and it's true that there is this kind of market tension, as you called. Funny enough, I'm advising a company that's doing something on the job market different than yours here in Spain. If you're okay with it, I will give some more straightforward feedback, especially because you're looking to raise funds.
Yeah, perfect.
One thing connected to the fact that I live in Rotterdam and now I live in Spain, and I see you want to expand in Spain, is you want to scale from Netherlands to international, which is great. I always favor internationalization. Also something I work with, so I would be silly to not say that. However, it's quite important to understand that the mentality in the Netherlands and in Spain is utterly different. The market is very different, and above all these, the labor rights and the laws and the constraints and the bureaucracy are enormously different. So I think you know that rationally, but since I lived both sides, and as I mentioned before, I also lived in France and in England. Getting with this, I mean, depends on the market. Depends on the startup and on the proposal. For what you are doing, that will have an impact, much more than if you are selling an app to do a marketplace or something like this. You're touching labor rights, as Leo pointed out. Okay, you're using freelancers, but not really. How does it work? I mean, don't want to end up in a situation like Glovo ended up. Or Uber riders in some countries. So that's really a real huge point of attention. Now, back to the pitch. Storytelling, something that Leo mentioned, you can consider, but it's an option to do, as he said, like if you want to do like telling the story of someone, make it real. Okay, we talked with Pim. Pim had this problem. He was a student, and then we talked with this company. And so, give names, even if they're fake names, to the two sides of the story, and see how both sides benefit from it.
Yeah.
And if you do the storytelling, do it from the beginning to the end. Don't start with the storytelling and then go to the financial and forget about Pim and Mark. Okay, just bring it along the story until the end. One thing that got me thinking, which I understand rationally what it means, but I had to stop and read and read what you mean, is the output-based tasks. When I read these, I had to stop listening to you and say, what does it mean by output-based tasks? Try to find something that is more intuitive to read and to understand. And this is one example, which really got me, but there are a couple of other things in the slides where I found myself having a similar reflex, like, okay, I had to read and think, what does it mean here? Then, of course, understand, but you don't want that effect. Again, it's about the storytelling and the flow. But the team slides, which is one of the things where I push the most. Good that you partially show complementarity, but you need to improve that a little bit. I mean, as I always say, if I'm here as an advisor, as an investor, I'm not a recruiter. I don't care about what university you did. I mean, I do to a certain extent. I want to know why you three guys are the best team to make this a success, why you committed and why you're complementary. Because if you are all great at sales, I say, who the hell is doing operations? Just to make an example. Or if you got one in marketing, one in sales, and one in administration, who is doing the other areas of the business? I mean, show that you know how a company works. You need to have different verticals. And also, I would suggest moving that after the financials. I mean, on a 10-minute pitch, it's pretty long. But I think, and it's just an opinion that I know it's very debated, but I think I would want to know the numbers first and then who is doing this and why you are the best team to do this. One question I have, I don't know if you can answer, but how did you get to the companies? Because that was really not clear and quite curious about it. Because students, I guess, is really relatively easy. I don't know if it's like Leo said, you did marketing to get to the companies.
Yeah, so we have a sales team who is like cold calling companies and make sure that they schedule a demo and onboard them as a client.
Got it. There are two things that you mentioned in the beginning, which really caught my attention and is part of your business model, and is that students lack expertise. And the second one you didn't mention, but I imagined it, and I didn't know how you actually solve it. So the first one is lack of expertise, and the second one is quality. Because if company head on, I say, okay, they don't have expertise A, even if they have a bit of expertise or have great skills, who ensures the quality? And how did you solve this?
Oh, do I need to? I can answer. Yeah, of course. No, I said in the beginning, they lack experience, not expertise. So that's like one way to measure if it's feasible or not to work with students. But you know, when integrating that skills-based CV, you can see what kind of skills are needed for a certain tasks, and then based on the reviews from the assignments that companies gave, you can ensure that it's a good quality.
Okay, moment zero. I'm a student. I get into the platform. I have experience, a bit of experience, but I lack expertise, as you said. Playing with words in a positive way. But in the end, I'm new. So how do you ensure quality behind that? And that brings me to the next point, which is this point. It makes unclear what AI would actually improve, because this is not clear to me. So when you say with AI, you raise funds for having AI to improve this is not clear.
Okay.
So here's and we're going to move on. Thank you very much for that one. We're going to move on to Joao. When you're receiving feedback like this, you take these questions and you see how you can improve your pitch to address those questions. Because if Julio was asking himself those questions, you can be sure that a lot of people in the audience will have been thinking similar things, and we can solve that through storytelling. I'll come back to that afterwards, but first I'd like to listen to Joao.
Yeah, you in the beginning, Philip, you said this is a safe environment. I don't know about that. Huh? No, I'm kidding.
No, come on, you're going to scare everybody off.
No. Just obviously you have revenue, you have investors locking in, so there is something you are making good. So these comments that I'm about to make is just the perception of the pitch. So a small comment, Josh, I'm gonna just bring a huge topic. If you are raising money from venture capital, try less and less to say Netherlands so many times. So don't address the market in the Netherlands point of view. Don't address the competition in Netherlands. Don't address that. Because if I'm investing as an investor in a venture capital, in a startup as a venture capital, honestly, and I say this, and I am a Portuguese, I know how small market can be. I don't care about the market in Netherlands. I care about investing in a company that can become much bigger than a market in Netherlands. because I need to 10x, 20x, 100x my investment. And if I only have the vision of a Netherlands market or competitor in Netherlands, I'm not going to invest in an international company that can conquer the market. So that's my main feedback in terms of storytelling, in terms of a VC point of view. Then small thing, Josh, use the first slide. Just this is a small comment, but a relevant one. Using the first slide to put already your details, because you are sharing for almost 1 minute and Philip is talking, introducing you. And I'm seeing and looking at the screen saying capacity tool. Does not say too much about your company. And people in events, they take out the phones, they take pictures. So it's a great first slides to give me. Give me a little bit more in the beginning. Capacity tool doesn't say much. It can be whatever company it is as a capacity tool. Now going into deeper. I don't know how much this pitch is a pitch deck rather than an investor deck. Okay, I'm becoming very technical because I think that this could be useful for you. It's have a lot of text. In general, when you are pitching to me, less text, and I want to listen to you more than I'm just reading. And this style of pitch deck with a lot of numbers, a lot of words, it seems like more an investor's deck rather than a pitch deck. So I'd like you to address that, and put the sources too of your numbers so I can consult while I'm listening to the pitch the sources of your numbers. Okay, now going a little bit to things that are more relevant maybe. I would like to see the business model before the market. I think it's good for me to see your price point and then correlate that. Okay, with your business model, where you are charging 100 euros. Okay, you tell me the number of companies that can be your target. You multiply the two. Okay, now I can see the potential of the market, right? And I think the business model comes a little bit late in your presentation. So I was asking many questions about the business model, and then you said the business model is pretty straightforward. And I was like, where is the percentage of get the jobs done in the matrix? It was not like the way that you say it's pretty straightforward. The matrix needs to be pretty straightforward. Maybe use a bolt on your commission or in your SaaS. I don't know. Maybe can help them to see it. Relevance for marketplaces, because you are a marketplace. LTV CAC analysis. You have to have it. It's super important for marketplaces, especially for your stage that you are raising money. You have metrics, so I want to see what is the relationship of LTV CAC metric. If you are wondering what are the benchmarks of the industry, you can go to FJ Labs Marketplace Metrics. FJ Labs Marketplace Metrics. That's the standard for the industry. So go there and see what kind of metrics are you in terms of seed stage. What I wanted to see, and I think that's a recurrence, Julio and Leo touch on that well. The legal of not being a freelancer, not being employed, whatever, does it work outside the Netherlands? Because with this round, I think you are going into different countries. That's the big question that you have to answer me, is that if this legal structure will function outside the Netherlands. And this is the big question that I come out of the pitch deck and said, is this legal framework that you use works in a lot of countries, with all the countries, or I don't know. One thing that I think you should do is building a customer journey, then try to explain me the product. I think it's much useful if you show me how the student can use your platform, how the company can use your platform, and tell me a real example. You already have clients, companies, you already have students, so put the faces of them, say how it is the customer experience on them, and go forward. Less common just on the fundraising side. It's good that you have 200 committed. Tell me if they are leading the round, if they are not leading the round, if you are looking for a leading investor, if you are not leading to an investor, if you have a priced round, meaning if you are raising at a specific valuation, if you are raising a convertible notes. In my view, and here in test my pitch, if you are in an event, don't go into details. on the specific matters. It's good that you save the numbers for a private room. So I would not go into explaining how my revenue is increasing. Maybe use relative numbers rather than absolute numbers. Don't say that you reach 10K a month or 14 a month. Say that you, between December and this month, you grow 2.5x, but don't show the numbers. Maybe your competitors can be watching this testmypitch.eu and they are seeing your numbers. You don't know if they are here or not. So I subscribe to all the comments of Julio and Leo. My main comment is get out of the mentality of the Netherlands. If you are raising venture capital money, you are here to conquer the world and to build a international company. Congrats on what you are doing. As again, you are doing something good numbers, good money committed. So just put shots. Congrats.
Thank you.
Excellent. So bringing all of that feedback together, I think that depending on the audience that you're pitching to, and you have chosen to go for a fundraising pitch, no matter who you're speaking with, you're always going to be adapting your pitch to your audience. And I think that in every case, you will benefit from practicing the storytelling side. What does it look like for the student? What does it look like for the professional? Because you're going to be answering so many questions by telling their story. Because what does it look like for a professional? You told us afterwards in the Q&A section that you've got a series of salespeople. Well, that's something that you can integrate into the pitch, and it takes about 5 seconds to say, right? When it comes to the actual fundraising rounds, also tell us when you're going to use that, how you're going to use that money to grow internationally. Because if you're going to grow internationally, you want to tell us where you're going to grow to and what your challenges are going to be, right? So just simply being aware of, that these are going to be the challenges, and you're looking for smart money in this direction or that direction. Telling your investors, yes, we're looking for money, but we're also looking for investors who have connections into ABC or who have expertise in ABC, right? That can be hugely beneficial because it makes people feel like, okay, they're not just looking for money, they're looking for something more. So with that, I'm going to thank all of these participants, and I'm going to remove you all from the feed because we do have our third startup this evening. And it's my pleasure to introduce to everyone Oluseye, and he's joining us from Nigeria. Surprise, surprise. So, Oluseye, can you hear us? Oluseye? Oluseye? Seye from NowPX, can you hear us? I think we have a tiny bit of a technical issue. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Okay, so we're going to come back to the two startups. Tuk and Tuk. Right, so Joost and Angelica. One of the things that we always want to hear at the end of a pitch is going to be a call to action. Now, Angelica, this is feedback specifically for you. We got it a tiny bit from Joost. You mentioned just before you started pitching that you were looking for people to help you with your startup. What kind of help or what kind of connections are you currently looking for? And I'm going to bring our fellow jury members back into the stream as well.
So the competition is one thing which I'm focusing now, but AdLab is doing also other projects. So I will be looking for probably angel investor for my other project, which is called Air the Brick. So it's slowly getting into construction sector with 3D printing organic materials, local materials in Luxembourg. So I'm looking also for funding, but at the same time for industrial partners for this project, which are more or less I already have, but it's always good to have bigger network. So as I know that Zhao, he's into sustainability. I wanted to ask if he's also into like the sustainable construction sector or not at all. Or maybe somebody from who is listening to today, feel free to also drop me a message. Yeah, and if you have any tips, I'm always happy to hear.
Very good. Well, I'll open the floor up for Q&A. So bearing in mind that we now have 20 minutes left, and we can definitely go between both startups. If Jost and Angelica, you have got questions for the jury, and our jury members, if you've got additional feedback, comments, connections that you would like to make, here is definitely the time and place to do it.
Yeah, also one more thing which maybe I can mention is that I was told, because of course like my concept is completely different than the one which Jost is representing. I was told, for example, by the House of Startups in Luxembourg that maybe if my business is focusing more on the development of my own 3D printer, that would be more interesting in case of scaling. So, because for now, what I will be offering is more or less design and 3D printing clay service. So if you have any tips for the future, like where the company maybe can develop too, that will be also very interesting.
I'll open up to the jury.
I honestly, that raises another point that I had, because that was a third pillar that I didn't quite understand how it integrated in the whole business model, because you also mentioned 3D printing. So this is a core thing of your business model. So 3D printing.
Yes.
Is it where you bring in the innovation? Is it? Can you elaborate a bit more about this 3D printing before I can be able to answer your question?
Right, because my background is architecture. So I came from the architecture, sustainable architecture university background, and I wanted to like integrate 3D printing, robotics into construction, but at the same time using sustainable materials and provide design which is adjusted to each family, to each client. Also for areas which are like facing humanitarian crisis, or they are in a big need of having fast housing, but at the same time not temporary housing, but proper housing which can be adjusted to each of the inhabitants. So as for now, I'm doing like all the research on my own, but in the future, probably for now, the concept is that I will provide the design and 3D printing service for also bigger scale. So I'm not developing right now my own machines, because these are already on the market. So my question would be, is there any like growth way in this kind of model, or would you suggest something else?
I'm even more confused. So you got the eggshells. You want to make furniture. You take the eggshells, you put into the 3D printing, you create furniture.
Yeah. So I'm.
This has nothing to do with the other clay kind of thing, because at a certain point you started talking about clay and other things. But you want to focus on one business model or the other, or you want to merge the two? What do you want to do?
So basically, I 3D print organic mixes of materials in different scales: small scale, middle scale, and then hopefully in the future, big scale. So houses. So when I say organic mix, means clay mixed with fibers, mixed with food waste. This is like what I mean with organic mix. So the furniture is one of the projects I have, but it's not the only one. So I also, does this sound more clear?
Yeah, it sounds clearer. I just need to wrap my head around the business model, because I see two different paths. One is, as you're saying, I focus on 3D printing, and then you present it in a totally different way because your skill and your business model is in 3D printing, and in printing different kind of materials at different scales and different models and different markets.
Yeah.
Which needs to be tackled with a roadmap, because you can't start with everything. You can't start talking about everything in a certain way. Or if you want to focus on this specific eggshell furniture, which also uses 3D printing, but then you're telling a totally different story. So I need to wrap my head. Now that's clear. So I need to wrap my head around this. Thanks for clarifying. I'll try to come up with something intelligent to say.
Yeah, so the roadmap is like I started with a small object that was like you can imagine the pottery, so like mugs and vases. Then now I'm in the process of like the second phase, which are a bit bigger objects. That means furniture or bricks, but like bigger bricks, so like elements of the walls. That's the second phase. And then the third phase is 3D printing houses on site.
Wow.
So that's the roadmap.
The great thing about 3D printing houses is that it is already being done, isn't it?
So there are prototypes, yeah.
Yeah, there are. In fact, there are many different videos. So one of the great advantages, as you and I have already discussed, is when you see competition, it's a really good proxy for market validation. Means that because it's already been done, sure, it's been done with concrete and cement, but in your particular case, you're going to want to do it in a much more sustainable, much more circular fashion. And so being able to point it out and say, this is nothing new, I'm improving on something that exists, that can be part of the storytelling. Because one of the issues with innovation is when something is totally new, a lot of people don't want to be the first movers. They don't want to take the quote unquote risk. But if somebody else has already bought a 3D printed house, personally, I would love to buy a 3D printed house because I'm an early adopter in that sense. We want to understand what people are most resistant to, but seeing that other people have already done it, that can actually be a good leverage. But I would tend to totally agree with Giulio in saying that your expertise in 3D printing is or should be part of even this pitch, because you bring a huge amount of credibility to the table in saying the technical challenge is actually not the issue here because I'm already an expert in the domain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So maybe I should also like present it in the way that yes, the 3D printing concrete exists, clay housing exists, but this market of merging them both together and using like locally available resources for that is not really developed in this part of Europe, in Luxembourg and around. So maybe I should present it in this way, that it's actually merging two existing parts into one.
Correct. You're bringing things that already exist and you're bringing it together into the whole point of it being a lot more sustainable. I think, Joao, you had something to add?
Yeah, just in that point, Angelica, you ask us how the industry is evolving, etc. I studied a little bit the furniture one, and especially I see the trend on the market going into producing furniture that is accessible to your house, or not accessible, perfect fit for your house. And when I ask you the why there is so much furniture thrown off, I studied that the most reason is people change places and that furniture doesn't fit in the new place, so they throw it out. So there is this company called Tilco, okay? Herman Miller just invested, I think it was 40-something million into Tilco. The CEO, Herman Miller, is the third largest player in the furniture market. So the industry is going that way. So you have to prove me as a listener that the why furniture is being thrown out is the reason why your solution makes sense. I think that's the point. You can see competitors, you can see whatever, but tell me the whys, and then I will tell you if your solution is wise or not. I think the focus should always be on the problem and not so much on the solutions.
All right.
Leo, before we move over to Joost?
No, I think everything I've been said. The material world is not really my expertise anymore, so I don't have as much to say for this particular company.
No worries. Let's move over to Joost.
I have one question in general and maybe two specific ones, very small ones. But the question in general is like, right now we are focusing on students, and I don't know who said it. I think it was you, Joao, that our biggest burden to onboard new companies is that companies are like, okay, students are great and we know that we need to do something with them, but we don't know if they have the right expertise to do this job or like to do something for a company. So my question is, should we focus also on like professionals, or should we focus more on explaining that students do have the right expertise to do the job and kind of kick against chins to make that happen?
Yeah, great question, Josh. I think you have two ways of doing that. I think first, you create PR awareness, so the brand of your startup actually can create some authority on these companies. I think when you talk about companies and breaking barriers about expertise, PR. You go send a message to the biggest newspapers in the Netherlands and say, I have a story for you. And it started to becoming a PR. And on the sequence of emails that your sales teams send on the cold calling, in between those emails, you say, oh, read the last article that appears on the Netherlands newspaper. I don't know really newspaper in the Netherlands. But you have these two options. They have this option, and the second one option is track record. You already have a lot of companies and a lot of students that already trust on you. I think this question is relevant if you ask me if I have 0 students, 0 tasks completed, 0 everything. That question is pretty hard to answer. But now you already have something to prove. But I put the question back to you, Josh. Why you don't offer 1 task for free inside your app for new companies that are entering? 2 tasks for free, so they can test it. They test 1 time, they say, oh, this is actually good. Okay, next time you have to pay us. I think that's a good thing for you. You are raising venture capital money, so maybe consider that cost of the first task as a CAC, and just throw 1 task. They try it, they like it, and they stick with us. And now you can do it. I think just respond directly to your question. If the LTV is higher than a CAC in the long term, use that venture money capital to give a free task and ride that wave.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question.
I can answer the question with another question usually, like how do you validate the market? You do survey. But so you're ready for customers, you can ask them. However, if I have to give my personal opinion, is you've been centering your model in students. Students are the center of your business model, and now you want to change to having professionals, which would be, I mean, a huge pivot in communication, in the purpose of the company, in how you measure students differently than professionals. I don't know. I'm not saying no. I say the market knows the answer, and if you want to know the answer, you should survey potential customers and existing customers. But that would take away my, again, gut feeling, that would take away your unicity. What's your differentiation? You do it with students. That's how you attacked the market. That's the problem you saw in the market, and then you want to change it. Not sure that's coherent, so to speak, with your nature. Could you do that? Yes, if you want to do that, you could do that, but it really sounds not coherent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just wanted to point out, in this type of companies, and Julio said it perfectly, I prefer that you go horizontal than vertically. Okay, horizontal meaning why you don't add to the platform test drive your career, where instead of one task, me as a student, I can test drive like the car in one specific area as a consultant to see if I like it. So I would prefer you to go horizontal than vertically. Vertically is too crowded. Just is there is a lot of platform connecting professionals, freelancers to companies.
And another point that I didn't mention before, which is somehow related but not much. I mean, Joao related it, so it's somehow related. It's like, dude, you already got traction. You got 14K a month. I mean, I wouldn't say it's massive in general, but I don't know I don't know what structure you have, how many people you are, but you're gathering 14 grand a month for a startup. It's pretty something. I wouldn't say it like someone tells it to me, dude, we're getting 14K a month. We are the best in the world. Okay, not the best in the world, but highlight it. I mean, you do have traction. You have things that are waiting. In other occasion, I'll ask you how many people you are and all the things we'll understand the metrics, but we can have this discussion another time. So I'll leave it to Philip.
Thank you. Maybe just when you're mentioning those numbers, and this applies to both of you and everybody, right? What we actually want to see is not so much the number itself, but it's the progression that you're currently making. Let's imagine that you're at 14K, but you've been at 14K for 6 months. That's a lot less impressive than in the last 3 months, we doubled every month, right? So that progression, obviously, we all know that growth is not infinite, but to demonstrate that you know how to grow and what have been the growth factors, and this is what we're going to carry on investing in, right? I mentioned earlier on telling us what your challenges were going to be, and this, again, Angelica, it also applies to you, what your challenges are going to be, but also what the milestones have been and the big accomplishments that you have had over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, right? So this is something that we were really struggling with, and we spoke with our consumer, and we realized that where we were providing the most amount of value was X, right? And just demonstrating, and we can go super deep on this, but we do only have 3 minutes left, so we're going to start wrapping up. It's very important for you to demonstrate in any pitch that you're really listening to the consumer, and more importantly, you're putting that into context for your audience, right? Who cares? And this is something that I would like for both of you to take away today. It's you won't please everyone. You can't be everything to everyone, or you won't be anything to anyone. You want to be specific with the people that you are most interested in speaking with, and your audience needs to be very specific, very well defined, right? It's okay for you to talk about your audience in saying, actually, we are not talking to A, B, and C because we're only focused on this. This is what we're doing, right? So, Angelica, just to give you an idea, and this is something that we can take offline afterwards, but when you're pitching, it's important for you to give a specific kind of person that you're going to be aiming at, right? We mentioned earlier on the hotel chain, or and now I'm talking specifically about the eggshells, right? You want to tell the story of a specific kind of person that you're going to be targeting, so that we as the audience say, I get it. I understand who she's going for. And maybe somebody knows someone in a very large hotel chain or a very large restaurant chain, and they can connect you, right? So remember, call to action, and this is going to be one of our closing points. The call to action at the end of your presentation is going to be the most important part. So my call to action this evening for you and for the entire audience, you have everybody's name up on the screen, and I would like to thank you all very, very much for attending this evening. Aside from LinkedIn, who else and where else can people find you and your LinkedIn and your websites.
LinkedIn and fuellambda.com for me.
Very good, excellent. Thank you very much, Leo. Joao,
It's LinkedIn only and TikTok.
LinkedIn only? LinkedIn and TikTok. Very, very good. Excellent. Julio, where can people find you?
Definitely LinkedIn, but if you want to have a peek at this new concept of Squad of Advisor, most of that in Spanish, but you can have a look.
For those who speak Spanish. Otherwise, Google Translate.
Automated translate. Yeah, there's only a landing page at the moment, but it's part of the things I'm doing, and it's quite excited about it. So
very cool. We look
but
forward to
LinkedIn is
seeing more about
direct
that.
connect.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you very much. Angelica, where's the best place to find you?
So at lab.com and for daily updates, Instagram mostly.
Instagram. Excellent. Very well done. Last but not least, Joost.
For me, on LinkedIn or on getjobsdone.nl.
.nl. Very, very important. Excellent. Thank you very much all for joining. And I will say a few parting words to our kind audience. As always, thank you very much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure spending this time with all of our guests this evening. You heard it. You can go and find them, connect with them on LinkedIn. This is going to be live streamed over on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. We're running this event, Test My Pitch, every month, and the next one is going to be at the end of April. We will come back with a date very, very soon. And my call to action this evening with you is please feel free to share this with anybody that could come and pitch. And we will be sharing the selection process, which is a simple Typeform link that I'll be happy to share with you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and also we're on TikTok. We're currently making some content. You'll find us on TikTok under Test My Pitch. So to one and all, thank you very much for joining. It's an absolute pleasure as always. Keep safe and keep practicing. Thanks again for joining. Bye-bye.